Alright, so we looked at in the previous video as to how we were creating our Streamlit application. Um, I've gone ahead and I've cleaned the code for the front end a little bit more, making it very nice and easy to read. So if I run my Streamlit application again, you can see that it is working. I'll just send these values to 1, 2, 3, 4. I will hit predict and then I will get my predictions. Now the thing is that um, we were making some assumptions. Okay, so let me clean this up. Let me start again. So assumption. Give me 1 second. 1 second. All right. Yes. So the assumption that we made in the first step, let's call it step one, was that I created my front end application which had both my UI and had my ML model, and also the fact that it also had the logic for backend as well. This is that we were given a machine learning model and we were also applying the logic for backend. In step two, what we're going to do is now we're going to have a front end, we're going to have a backend, and and still you will be given a machine learning model. So what you can see in the red is the assumptions that we are making. So as we go down and add more and more steps, or as you follow along more and more videos, you will see as to how we're going to be adding more and more complexity to this project. Okay, so we're starting very simple. You don't actually need to know any machine learning model to implement this right now. But as we move along in this series, um, you will be you will be taught as to how you can train your machine learning models based on some data set and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's now build the backend application. So for the backend application, this was the front end application which was running. We're going to create a new backend.py file. For our backend, we will be using FastApi for this project. So let's take a look at the documentation of FastApi. So to create your first FastApi application, a very simple application, you can just copy this code. So you are importing FastApi. You created an object called application for this FastApi class. And then you have this decorator, which is basically saying that whenever I'm going to hit on this local website, I want to return this message. So I'll save this. To run this application, I need another Anaconda prompt. I'll set my uh, I'll set my virtual environment to this, and then I'll go to my folder, so cd project, and then over here to run this application, we are going to write FastApi dev main.py. So let's write that down. FastApi dev and backend.py, because this is the name of our file. Dev basically means that we are at the development stage. So let's run this and see if it's working. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste this over here, and you can see that this is in fact working. So the this is the index file which is being hit, and this is basically returning you this message. Now if you want to look at a more detailed detailed overview of this backend application, you can also write /docs, which you can also see is written over here. So this is for the API docs. So this is for the root. And right now it has no parameters. We're just getting this. And if we try this out, we execute this. Um, so this is just it's being executed. So let's wait for this. You can also use this, or you can use Postman as well. Let's use Postman. So over here, okay, I have no idea as to why it's taking so long. Let me take a look as if whether um, the backend application is working. Yes, it's still working. Anyways, so over here, we are just going to get, and we're going to send a get request. Okay, I think the IP is same. Yes. Okay, let's send this again. Okay, I feel like this is not working. I need to maybe restart this. So let's cancel this and see if I can still hit the. Yes, I think the backend application has crashed. So let me. Okay, so the thing. Let's try this again. Okay, now it's working from over here. When I execute this, you can see that code 200 is being executed, and I have my message as hello. If we use over here, we are also getting our message as well. So our backend application is working. Now we're going to add or remove this entire prediction logic from here to this application. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Before we go into implementing the entire inference logic into our backend, the first thing that you need to know is that whenever we are sending a post request, which is like when we are sending the data over here, we want to have, uh, let me see if I can find it for you. So whenever we are sending a request body, we need to have a base model. We need to tell as to, we need to um, explain to our backend application that these are going to be the variables which are expected, and these are going to be the data types which are going to be expected. So for our case, let's do this very quickly. So we are going to import Pydantic import base model, and inside here we are going to create our class item. So for us, that's going to be class flower because we're predicting a full flower, and we need to specify a base model over here as a parameter. Then we are going to specify that our four variables, which was what, sepal length, all of this stuff over here. So this, and this, these are all float values. So we have specified as to what our model is going to look like. Now we are going to create um, our prediction API. So for this, we are going to say app.post, and then we are going to be hitting the predict URL, and inside here we are going to define an asynchronous function which is going to be called as predict, and it is going to accept an item flower. So basically what we're saying is that when we're going to be sending a request body to it, so a request raw body to this thing, it's going to be of this class I flower, and these are the variables which are going to be expected. So that's what I've mentioned over here. So um, now, first of all, we need to give all of these values. We need to pass this entire data inference values to my backend application. So to do that, what we're going to do is I want to keep my front-end application separate from the backend application. So I'm going to use another library called import request, And using this request library, what I am going to do is right now all of this logic, which is for predicting and all of this part, this will be moved over here. We're going to take a look as to how this is being implemented. Uh, Over here, what we're going to do is right now we are going to send a request. So we're going to send a request, a post request to HTTP to this website, and we're going to call this as predict. And this will be our response. Now, if the response dot code status code is 200, which means that yes, everything is good to go, then what we're going to do is this will basically return you predictions, and you want to convert that into a JSON file, making sure that it is a JSON file. And then once you have the JSON file, we're going to do some bit of code. So let's take a look and just write predictions for now. Okay, so what are we doing? If you don't understand, let me try to explain you over here. So this is my front end application. So wait 1 second. So what we're doing right now is this is my front end application. Okay, this is where the user is basically going to put different values. So let's say that I have my sepal length, my length, and the width, and all of the other variables. And let's say that this is a blue box. These are all of the user input values. Now imagine that what we were doing earlier was we were also implementing the backend logic in this file as well. But now I'm saying I'm not implementing the backend logic, or I'm not going to be using the same application for my machine learning model as well. I'm not going to be doing this anymore. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another application which I've called as my backend application. This will have my machine learning model. I will send my input to this. Now, where is this? Where is this backend application? This backend application is at 127.0.1.8000 slash predict, something like this. This is the like the URL where this backend application is being hosted. So I'm going to go to this IP address, and I'm going to give all of this data over here. Now to send this data, I'm using the request library, and then this backend application model or my backend application is going to take this input. I will send that input to my machine learning model, and the machine learning model will then give me the predictions. And then once I have my predictions, I can then show which flower is being predicted. So this is what we are trying to do. So right now I have uh, sent my request over here. Now also note that um, we need to pass this data. So we're going to pass this as a JSON object, which will be as data inference. And over here, um, note that instead of passing this as an NP array, I will send the data as a JSON file over here and then convert that JSON file to my NP array. Because when you're transferring data from one application to another application, using this front end back end architecture, it's better to use JSON for transferring the data, and then you can change your data to your needs and then convert that for your machine learning model. So one change that we're going to do is we're no longer going to create an NP array object over here, but instead we're going to be creating a dictionary, which will be our JSON, um, which will be our uh, JSON object. So over here, we are going to send our sepal length. So sepal length, this will be our sepal length. Then we are going to have our sepal width, which will be sepal width. Then we have our petal length, petal length. This will be our petal length. And then we have our petal width, and this will be our petal width. Okay, so now that we have created our JSON or our dictionary, which is basically equivalent to a JSON object, the next thing that we are going to do is, so the data gets sent over here. We're going to send a request. Now this is going to accept this request, and then once it gets the once it receives this data over here, what we are going to do is we are going to write that our data inference is going to be this item for now, and then we can return this data inference, and then we can just write our predictions. Okay, so let's try this out. So right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to show you that I'm just passing this data as a JSON object and to my backend application, and then just pass that file again back to my front end application to show that this communication between the front end and backend application is working. So over here we are going to rerun this. We're going to send a prediction, and I think the prediction is not working because there's an invalid syntax. So let's get back to our backend and see where was this. Yes, that is correct. It should not have added a semicolon over there. um, Let me go back. It stopped. Let's try from my Postman application, see if it's working. So predict and send some values, see if it's working, and it's not working. I think it has crashed, so it's reloading. Okay, now let's send this. Okay, method not allowed because it should have been a post, and as a result our backend application is working. Let's try to take a look from over here as well. So let me refresh this, let me close this, go here, and let's try this out. Let's set the values to 1, 2, 3, 4, point 0, point 0, point 0, and point 0. Let's execute this and see if we get we got a code 200, and this is the response body that we were getting. Now let's try it out on our front end application. I think we need to rerun this. Okay, so we are getting an error over here. So let me rerun my front end application again. So let's set this value to 1, 2, 3, 4, hit predict. Okay, so we are getting an error which is unprocessable entity. So let's take a look as to why this is happening. So we send our data inference, which should have been this thing. Just try to make sure that everything makes is the same thing. So I think so. Uh, these should have been lowercase. I think so. That is the error that we are getting. Save this. Go back. Stop. Rerun. Okay, this is taking some time. Okay, it has crashed. Let me open another one. So it's more easier and faster to do this. So Honda activate AML project. We're going to go to the D folder, cd project, streamlit run front-end.py. Okay, so let's set this value to 1, 2, 3. Yeah, let's try and see if it works. Still not working. Okay, yeah. So as you can see, it is working now. There was some bug with the backend application. So you can see that in fact we are getting our JSON object. But we don't want this, right? We want to get our prediction. So to create our prediction, what if instead of returning item, because item is made up of all of these things, what if I want just the sepal length? If I save this and I hit again, I will get the sepal length. If I want to get the petal length, then I can write this as petal length. Save this, go back here, hit predict, and we got 0.0. So what that basically means is if I want to access each of these variables, I can just write item dot something something. And if you remember when we were creating our machine learning model, we were using an np.array object, and we were using that to we were using that for our inference. So what we can do over here is we can write we can import numpy as np, and we don't want the numpy library over here any longer because we are now using it over here. And now over here we can write this as np.array, which is going to be taking our item.sepal length, item.sepal width, item.petal length, and item.petal width. This will not work because if you remember from the previous video, the machine learning model was trained on a two-dimensional NP array. So I need to add another bracket, square bracket over here. So now I have my data inference ready to go. And now I can uncomment all of this. The path is set over here, joblet is path set over here, pickle is not imported. We can now just grab our machine learning libraries, which are no longer required over here, paste them here. And now we are going to, first of all, let's try it on one prediction, and then I will add both of the predictions afterwards. So first let's try for the first prediction, which will be from our pickle file. So this will return the prediction over here, and what we can do is we can cut this part, we can paste this, and we can say that predictions and display our prediction. So set that over here, save that, and hopefully if I go back to my Streamlit application, rerun this, hit predict. Okay, let's see, we got an error which is numpy.int64 is okay. So we got an error in our backend application, so we need to fix that. So let's take a look. where we went wrong. Okay, so let's try to read this and see. NumPy.in64 author is not iteratable dictionary. Okay, why? Hmm. Let's see if our data inference was correctly identified. So before we do all of this, we can just return one, and we can also return data inference, the type of data inference. So let's go back here, let's hit predict, see what we get. Okay, it's not working, let's crash. Okay, let's hit predict, and over here it's working. It is 1203. It's a num by nd array, so it should work. See if there's an error over here, and then print my predict pickle, so we know that this is working. So let's try to predict again. Okay, I think it has crashed again. Let me get hit predict. Okay, so it is working because it's receiving the prediction. So it did receive the prediction, so this is working, this is working. Okay, so this is working. What's not working is this. So what I think is happening is this is returning like a JSON object, right? So what we need to do instead is um, we need to return predictions. So what's happening is, wait, if I hit send over here, you'll see what happens if it's working. Okay, so it's returning one. Okay, sometimes it's working, sometimes not working. Okay, why is this happening? Server send. Okay, yes. Shutting down. Okay. Okay, so this has crashed. Okay, 1 second. I will be right back. Alright, so the solution was very simple. I forgot the most basic thing which I was teaching you, which was that whenever you are sending and receiving the uh, data, whenever you're transmitting the data, it should always be in what format? It should always be in JSON format. So that's the reason why you were getting an error. So what I did was I just created a dictionary over here, which is prediction pickle. I was mentioning that yes, it will always be an integer value, because remember when we were receiving the value, we were telling, hey, these are the variables which are going to be of this data type. Similarly, you also have to mention that this is going to be an integer value. And once you have added this code, now if I run my Streamlit, so if I go back, I will close my Streamlit application. So AML project, go to the cd project, and then run my Streamlit run frontend.py. Over here, set the values to 1, 2, 3, 4, hit predict, and we got a prediction. Okay, so the error that we're getting over here in the front end is because we are not uh, using the predictions uh, variable correctly, we need to transform this a little bit. So this will be predictions, and what are we getting? We are receiving this particular we are accessing prediction slash underscore pickle, and then we can just copy this, paste this here, save it, and now if we rerun this, hit predict, we should get our flower. So instead of like getting only one prediction, we can get another prediction as well. So I can just add comma, write prediction joblib colon integer as predict joblib, save, go back here and copy this, paste this here. We don't need this anymore. So now this will be from from. So this will be this. Save. Rerun this. Hit predict. And now we got our prediction from our pickle model and from our joblib as well. So let's just call it joblib. Save. Rerun. And now we have got our predictions. So if you remember, we were doing like 1, 2, and 0, and based on this, I think we were getting 0 as our prediction. So yes, so this is our for our 0 flower. So now what we have done is we have successfully created our front end application, we have created our back end application. Now in the third step, what we're going to do in the next video is that now we will look as to how we were creating our machine learning model. So we are going to now create our machine learning model. This is going to be a very short video, and we are going to have an assumption that the data set of iris dataset is given to you. So in the next video.